Hello and welcome to the second episode of Nerd3. Today we're bringing you the power of three with your host Nick, Nate, and the ever-rotating third chair, the person making me question my sexuality, Pete.
Oh, that's very flattering. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And Nate's here as well.
Yeah, thanks, f***er.
Alrighty, and today is a special. It's very special. Today we're going to be talking about E3. We're going to be talking about Call of Duty versus Battlefield, and a couple other things we've been doing, what we've been up to, and everything. So let's get right into it.
Woo. Spoiler alert: it's crystal meth.
Yes.
Oh boy.
A little bit of grinding before we get started. Go to @TX3 Productions, and that is our Twitter. Make sure to give us a follow. We're getting pretty close to just 50 followers. If we get to 50 followers, we're going to do a giveaway. Just a nice little $20 to say thank you for following us. And also, if you could subscribe to us on either iTunes or SoundCloud, wherever you happen to listen to us, that would also be very great. And maybe leave us a review. Just saying. Anyway, so time for our first segment of the day. It came from the interweb. So, this week's It Came from the Interweb is Call of Duty and Battlefield both had an event. Now, we're going to do our best and not really be too biased on the game itself. Rather, I want to talk about the events. I want to talk about who won, who lost, they obviously revealed next to each other. I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I want to say that Call of Duty announced their event first, and then all of a sudden, Battlefield announced theirs. So I don't know if they had it planned before, and then they're just like, oh, wait, us too, guys.
Yeah, I'm not honestly sure about that one.
I can confirm that was the case. Yeah, the Call of Duty one was announced, and then shortly after the presentation, Battlefield did a tease saying the announcement was coming soon.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so real quick, we're going to start with our guest, Pete, today. What did you think about Call of Duty's event?
So I didn't actually watch either of the events themselves live. I just kind of saw the announcements as they came out. So I was kind of I'm kind of removed from the first person shooter multiplayer scene, and have been for quite some time. So I'm not I'm not super jazzed about either of these titles enough to really get into those events as a live broadcast. But in terms of what came out of the two sets of announcements, I was definitely more interested in what Battlefield had to bring to the table. I think that's been consistent for me over the last couple years. The most recent FPS that I picked up was actually Battlefield 1, because they kind of got me in with that kind of vignette story situation. Getting to play that game, it kind of reinforced to me why I'm more interested in Battlefield than Call of Duty. Not that I don't have a problem with Call of Duty. I think as in terms of their gameplay systems, they're really strong. I think it's hard to argue that they're quality games. They just don't. For whatever reason, they've always struggled to appeal to me. I think because the gameplay is just a little bit too fast, and I feel like Battlefield, for whatever reason, to me, it feels a little bit more I have a chance to breathe, Yeah,
definitely.
And it feels like there's a little bit more, you have a better ability to affect the gameplay, even if you're not a great Twitch shooter player.
Yeah, definitely.
So that automatically makes me a little more biased towards what Battlefield had to show. But yeah, I think of those two games, that's the one I'm more likely to pick up if I get either of them this year.
All right, Nate.
Well, first off, I can agree with that. I haven't been on Battlefield in a while. The last one I actually played was Battlefield 4.
Okay.
And I played
Never forget.
I played it when it first came out, when it was in the Broken Age, and then I played it again when everything was all patched up and fixed. But I've always loved Call of Duty. I've been a big Call of Duty fan for a long time. And, the last... I really enjoyed, to start off, I really enjoyed the stuff they showed off at the at the Black Ops reveal, and I like the event itself. But the last Call of Duty that I played, just an absolute a ton of time, I spent a ton of time with, was Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 I loved. I still think Black Ops 3 is the best jetpack Call of Duty. It's way better than Advanced Warfare to me and Infinite Warfare. Both Infinite Warfare and World War II, I played the campaign and got all the trophies for the campaign, and then I maybe got to level 10 on the multiplayer for both, and then I just stopped playing because neither of them were fun to me. I didn't think either of them were fun at all. And in fact, I thought Infinite Warfare was just kind of egregious, just because it was too futuristic. I'm like, this is not the Call of Duty I love. So I was super excited.
Hashtag not my Call of Duty.
Hashtag not my Call of Duty. I was super excited to see what they had actually shown off, because Black Ops 4 looks like it's going to be a mix. It looks like it's going to be a combination of Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 2, which, in my opinion, are some of the best multiplayers in the series.
Yeah.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
So you're very much into what they had to show you this time around, then.
So you're team COD?
Yeah, I'm definitely team COD. I enjoyed I have a specific thought that I think is pretty accurate, though some people are arguing it, but I'm definitely team COD. I think that in some aspects, Battlefield had a better press conference. I only say that like in the start of it, because I think towards the end of it, they really kind of... towards the end. So
really? Just the end of it?
We'll see. Well, I'll go ahead and get into mine. What I liked about Battlefields was it was more conversational. I will admit that Call of Duty's was, all right, guys, guess what? No jetpacks, boots on the ground. Like, it was kind of just like, this press conference would have flown several years ago. But now we've evolved so much in the industry to the point of we enjoy the humanizing of the publishers and of the developers, not so much, hey, we are putting on this press conference, look at our shooters, like, that was kind of
right.
That was kind of a lot of the speech. And then you had Battlefields, Trevor Noah, who I don't follow a whole lot. I thought some of his stuff on the thing was in the reveal was funny, but I liked how it was just him being an anchor point, saying, all right, guys, now tell me what you have to say. And it was just the developers sitting there having a conversation.
I think that's generally to the benefit of a show like that. I like, my mind immediately goes to like Ubisoft with Aisha Tyler, and I feel like last year when they didn't have her, I felt like that conference felt a little bit disjointed, and I think that's a really good point. Like, having a good host to like really give you something to have a through line throughout the entire show really does make a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that both of you have a completely different opinion than me, because it makes it more funny when I'm able to just completely on it and get all like Nick about it. So, okay, here's the thing, guys.
He's about to get nitpicky.
I'm
nitpicky, I like that.
I'm a little cynical, okay? But okay, so when we're talking about the events themselves, first off, I don't love Call of Duty, but I can appreciate it. It's like a lot of people, like, annoyingly so, honestly, a lot of people hate on Call of Duty because it's like, oh, here's another one, and it's been a year. Like, it's like they're not innovating and stuff, and I can agree to a certain point, but what I want more people to focus on, and like maybe like, I don't know, I feel like everybody's like, oh, it's just the same game. It's like each developer really takes a different flavor. Infinite Warfare, even if it tried to copy Black Ops, there's just certain things. And now, first off, Treyarch is the king. They make the best Call of Duty. So I'm going to be a little bit more try-hard than I am going to be like a Sledgehammer or an Infinite, or what is it?
Infinity Ward.
Ward. See, they screw it up by calling one of their games Infinite Warfare.
Yeah,
anyways,
that's true.
So I'm team try hard. So them putting out something, I almost immediately gravitate towards that, regardless. So first off, like, I totally see what you guys mean as far as like, especially like the like college dorm room like, hey bros, guess what, it's 100% boots on the ground, man. You know, like, I get that, but also that's their demographic. Like,
sure,
you know, you can't get mad at them too much for going towards their demographic, because there's so many videos online afterwards and everybody's focusing on the fact that, like, oh, no single player. They didn't really care about literally anything in the reveal other than, oh no, there's no single player. And I am one of those people. Like Battlefield 1, you talked about how you like the vignettes and stuff like that. I like the concept of the vignettes, but I'll be honest, never played them.
Okay.
I played one mission, and it's not because I don't appreciate them, and it's just when I go to a Battlefield, for instance, I go to Battlefield to play games. Or to play online. I want to get my squad together. I want to play. So them saying, "Oh, we're taking, you know, single players out," it's like, I get why people don't like it, and you know, the value of it is diminished because now there's not a single player and everything. I get it, but at the same time, the last campaign that I played, like, significantly, if not all the way through, was Modern Warfare 2.
Sure.
Ooh.
And that's mainly because I played through some of each one. It didn't catch my attention, and so I just stopped playing. You know, whereas there are some people that play through the whole thing, and, you know, I don't want to, like, alienate them necessarily, but at the same time, it's like, when it comes to me, it's like, I can't really, you know, I can't throw shade at them because it's like, oh no, single player. So, like, I'm trying to look at the event itself. It's a very long roundabout way to say that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look at the event itself. I'm not going to sit here and complain about, oh, they don't innovate, or, I want to look at the event itself. How did the event go? And personally, I absolutely, positively hated Battlefield's event.
Mm-hmm.
It was an hour, or no, it was like 30 minutes lead up to a trailer.
Yep.
That was ridiculous.
Yep.
Every single time. And to a certain extent, I can see where they were trying to come from, but oh my God, was it boring. Oh my God, was it just, hey guys, we're listening. And the next time I hear EA say that they're listening, I'm going to, like, don't take this serious, guys. Okay, just the side note. Next time I hear it, I'm gonna, like, strap a bomb on and, like, go to EA's headquarters, because oh my God, EA listens as much as I take it. Okay, it happens so often, and it's not true. They don't listen to us, and so all this PR nonsense is ridiculous. And having Trevor Noah read from a teleprompter saying, "Hey, you have a real gamer here asking you real questions," when he's reading it from a teleprompter. You can see he's eyes shifting. He's looking at the teleprompter. It's not natural. So he comes up with these you think they're quote unquote smart questions about, oh, hey, microtransactions. You guys fucked up last time. So what are you going to do this time? And then they do this nice little PR answer. And it's like, no, you guys planned that. Okay.
Yeah.
Trevor Noah isn't being a OG by going out there and asking the hard questions. EA decided, hey, how do we want to handle this situation? Everybody's going to want to know the answer to that question. So let's just have Trevor Noah, this funny guy who jokes about Donald Trump, and let's have him ask the question. So, and he's going to be like, hey, I got, like, kill streaks and stuff, so I'm a true gamer or something. No,
so
fuck that.
So here's the thing. I think that the whole teleprompter issue was way worse in Call of Duty's, primarily with the, I don't remember his name, so I apologize for that, but the
Lord
guy...
Vanderhall?
No, not Vanderhall. No, the guy who introduced the zombie stuff and showed off the zombie stuff, his was hella worse. Because he was sitting there, you could see him walking back and forth, and his eyes stayed in the same position the entire time.
Right.
And that's...
And I don't know if that was also a cultural thing, because he had an accent, too, so...
I mean, he's British. I mean, that's not too much of a cultural thing. But
What the f*** is wrong with British people? What are you trying to say?
the two biggest problems that I had with Call of Duties is the teleprompter, because I thought it was way more prominent that they were just reading off. It would have been much better if they maybe had talking points on the teleprompter and it was just them on the stage. Hey guys, we want to show you our game. But
that's what everybody should do.
But the biggest
having an entire freaking script on there is just stupid. Go out there and talk about your game. You're excited to talk about it, right?
Well, and I think
aren't you?
And I think it's also like you should put faith in the people that you choose to host, right? Like you should have somebody that's confident enough that they can, and even if you prepare questions for them, right? Like it's an event, I get it, they want to control the narrative, but you can have something that's produced and packaged well that doesn't feel artificial.
And I'm not saying this because I'm a fanboy.
Flashcards would have been better, like with Trevor Noah, for instance. The flashcards I think would have been like here, I've prepared my own questions. It still would have been fake, and we still would have seen right through it, but it at least would have felt more natural. He's had flashcards on his show before, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, I'm not
seeing that wouldn't have taken me out of the experience.
Yeah. Well, like for example, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fanboy, but Greg Miller. Miller has done this for 10 years. He's been an internet gaming personality for 10 years. I've seen him on all the press conferences, with his interview with Hideo Kojima.
Or like the Square event that him and Tim did.
Yeah, exactly. The Square event. It was produced, but it felt genuine.
Yeah.
I understand why they want to do Trevor Noah because he's mainstream. We want to appeal to the mainstream. But like, come on. But I totally agree with you. Okay. I'm going to make a statement that I think is 100% accurate, but I could be wrong. So, I loved the gameplay stuff they showed for Black Ops 4. I think it's super cool. I think it's a focus. I like the way they're going kind of towards Rainbow Six Siege kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks
smart.
it looks super tactical. The fact that you have to manually health regen, stuff like that is super interesting, and it's not something we've had. All of the COD stuff felt super tactical, felt like it was, this is a new way we're going. And then I watched the Battlefield 5 trailer.
And they didn't show anything?
Do you want to, am I wrong to say that I got a PUBG Fortnite kind of vibe?
How so?
COD felt and looked super tactical, and Battlefield 5's felt like Fortnite. Okay. Because the stuff they showed off was over the top, crazy colors. Hey, I'm sliding on my back and I'm shooting through a building as a tank comes through.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I can see what you mean.
Yeah, like the way that what they showed, like and I appreciated it to an extent because it's like, hey, this isn't just another World War II shooter. We're showing you that, hey, this is fun. Like, and I appreciated that because they could have been like, we're doing another World War II game. But they're showing that it's different. But it's one of those that it's super interesting. The they switched. It's always been the opposite,
right? Yeah, right. Like Battlefield was always like the big tactical shooter. Right. But yeah, I don't know that I agree that it has like a Fortnite Battle Royale vibe. But
no, I'm just talking about the tactical v cartoon.
Right. I mean, like even the cartooniness of it, because I feel like we did kind of see that a little bit with Battlefield 1. Not that it was cartoony, but like I remember that first like hype trailer where there was just like the planes exploding and the guys on horseback, and it was like very like the thrill of it, But
that was a dope trailer.
It was.
That was a dope trailer.
That's the thing. That's what sold me, man. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, and to something that you said earlier, Nick, I think that what you're saying about Call of Duty is probably right, because I think even though that there are people like Nate that do really play for the storyline, or like you pointed out, like I was drawn in by Battlefield's storyline, I'm not a good litmus test for that. Like I don't usually play these games, so like. Yeah, maybe that appeals to me. Maybe that appeals to a vocal minority of people. But I feel like for the by and large, you're probably right that people are more interested in just the multiplayer. Well, and doing that for Call of Duty, and again, taking a more tactical approach, something that's a little bit different, and trying to do something that's fresher and get away from that criticism of it's just more of the same. That could be really good for them, Now,
I am slightly disappointed that there's not going to be a single player, but I'm thrilled. Okay, I'm thrilled because Black Ops 3's campaign was awful. It is literally the worst in the series. It makes absolutely no sense. It's one of those that I played it all the way through. I started it, and then a few, like 6 months later, I started it over and played it all the way through. And it was one of those, why did I just spend 8 hours of my time doing that? Right. So I think that them not having a single player this time around is going to help them focus a lot more on multiplayer, zombies, and Blackout, which, even though we didn't see anything for Blackout, everything looks fantastic. The only bad thing on that end is I wish that they would be real about what happened. Because you're going to tell me that from the start they didn't have a single player? No, a lot of people worked a lot of long hours trying to put that single player together, and it just didn't come together.
Right.
Yeah, some kind of like acknowledgement of, hey, this is what happened or something. Even if it would have been like a press release afterwards, I think would have gone very far into
like just being upfront.
To just So I mean, if they were a little bit more transparent, let people know that, we know, Like, I mean, I think the fact that the entire time, it wasn't until the very end that they even admitted the fact that there was no campaign. If you watch the whole thing, they're just like, here's this awesome thing about multiplayer, here's this awesome thing about zombies, here's this new gameplay, or here's this new trailer for Blackout or whatever, and the whole time they didn't acknowledge that, no, we're not going to have a campaign. They were very dodgy about it. And so not until the very end, they're like, oh, hey, we're not going to have a traditional campaign. So I don't like that. But like my biggest thing, we're talking about the events themselves. My biggest thing is the fact that Call of Duty showed more. Even if it was like they showed all the different attachments you can put on your gun. They showed different characters and their move sets. Whereas here, it's like, hey, let's talk about fortifications. Fortifications sounds awesome, but there's a key word there. Sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see anything.
If
it's
they
like,
would have
hey,
had
our
a breakdown,
our weapons are going to be authentic. Let's talk about it for a couple of minutes.
If they would have had a breakdown, like on the screens behind them, say, we're going to talk about fortifications. This is how they work, like they did in Call of Duties. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, from an event standpoint, every time Black Ops was talking about something, they'd have a video on screen that went along with it. The most I saw for like weapons, for instance, is they had an M1 Grand on the screen in front of them, and that's it. Everybody know it's World War II. Of course, it's gonna be a fucking M1 Grand.
Yeah, I think. I definitely can see what you guys are saying, and I feel like ultimately it just seems like maybe I think you made this point in the beginning, Nick, that like Call of Duty had announced the event first, and it seemed like they really had stuff to show, and like Battlefield probably didn't need to have an entire like press event to release this trailer.
Oh yeah, they could have cut this down to like here's us talking for 5 minutes, 5 good solid minutes of like, hey, we fucked up, we're sorry. No microtransactions, DLCs are for free, here's a trailer. But 20 minutes to lead up to the trailer, and I'll say the trailer didn't get me as hyped as Battlefield 1's first trailer
Not
did.
at all.
Nope.
Not at all. I mean, we were talking about it off camera or whatever you want to call it. The song, like the remix of it was
sick remix of
so
Seven
awesome.
Nation Army. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and like
and
that trailer was just hype. Like it was very
and
well
they made
edited.
sure that the trailer itself matched the music.
Sure.
So like that one part where it goes real quiet, and then the blimp shadow is going over the guy's face, like chills.
Yep.
Fucking chills. And so for them to just, and it wasn't a bad trailer necessarily. It's just like explosion, Michael Bay.
Well, see what I like I said before. I think the trailer was cool, and the trailer was important because it shows. I mean, the main woman in the trailer has a prosthetic arm, like a prosthetic hook arm. So I think what they're trying to go for is, hey, this is a fun multiplayer. We're gonna have fun. There's gonna be a lot of cool cosmetic things. Yeah. Like this isn't just a World War II shooter. Yeah. So that's why I like the trailer.
I'll be honest with you guys, real fast here. I'll be honest. The whole prosthetic arm thing actually threw me off because everything around her and what was going on was World War II. But as soon as I saw the robot arm, I'm like, wait a second, are they doing like an alternate
That's what I thought. That's
timeline?
exactly what I
really,
thought.
huh?
Oh, good. It wasn't just me.
No, that's exactly what I thought because everything seemed like too like nothing seemed like it was in World War II. It either seemed like it was
the
like
M60,
alt feature
was
or
the M60 even invented at that time? The guy had an M60 on, like that was the weapon he was carrying. At least it looked like an M60,
Sure.
because it was belt fed and
well, there was definitely belt-fed machine guns,
well,
even in
right,
World
but
War
they
One.
looked a lot different than.
Yeah,
what
I
we
agree with
had.
that.
Like, I don't know, it might not have been the M60 in particular, but it looked a lot like an M60, so much that it just like what it looked like he had was a trench gun, like a machine trench gun.
I gotta say,
And
I would be
those-
really into that actually if it was like an alternate history, like kind of
Right?
Like
I at least then it would be something fresh. It's like going back to World War II. On the one hand, it's been a while, and it's like, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, but I don't know. I hope we get something new out of it. So, okay. So finishing this part up, because we're already about, 30 minutes into the show. Finishing this up, the events themselves, if we're talking about how they were done and everything, I'm not talking about the games itself. I'm not saying that I'm more excited for Call of Duty, but when we're talking about the event and the fact that I had to wait 20 minutes for a trailer,
sure.
Call of Duty won it on that. I don't care that it didn't have single player. I would prefer single player.
They also
And-
showed way more.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
almost by default get it.
Well, I feel like
Right.
for me, like with them having blackout, like they take the event no matter what. Like that's a
Right.
big thing, and people are.
And that was super cool. Like, hey, we're putting everything that's been in Black Ops series ever. Characters, guns,
Right.
maps. It's
And I
like-
even think the nod at Nuketown and how this map is like 10 times or 1,500 times
yeah.
bigger than Nuketown. I'm thinking Nuketown's in it. Because how could you not have Nuketown?
They're all connected. That's how Blackout is. The maps.
It's
They're trying to connect all of the maps together. So it's like one universal thing with like
Yeah,
different
you saw
parts.
windmills.
I didn't realize that's
so
what
with
they
the
meant when
windmills,
you said it was all
Yeah.
of this stuff. That's really cool. That's really cool.
yeah.
That's really
I
cool.
could have swore I saw Noctair Oten because I saw a bunker and I'm like, I don't know any other maps that have that particular looking bunker. So if they had like Noctair Oten, if they had Nuketown, and like Summit, they had a mountain, so I could see them having a Summit map or part of the Summit map on that mountaintop. That'd be freaking awesome.
You can almost guarantee every Black Ops asset that they have is going to be used in this in some way.
Right. This is like somebody took the like Black Ops map maker, if they had one, and they're just like, let's just make the coolest maps and put it together in a giant map and like throw in some helicopters.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, please.
Sounds good to me.
So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, if we're talking about the events itself, Call of Duty wins it for me. Pete, you said Call of Duty as well?
Yeah, I think based on just that whole point that you made, right? That it's more or less a 20-minute lead up to a trailer, and it felt kind of thin, right? Like
Right.
Even though I'm probably more interested in Battlefield 5, I think Call of
Right.
Duty seems like they were prepared for this a little bit more.
Yeah. And Nate, I think
Yeah,
you're
Call of
probably-
Duty.
You're Team COD as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even if EA didn't have the BS that they have with microtransactions, I mean, they needed more than what they gave us. And what they gave us, it felt too much PR. Too much PR.
And I think
just like, hey guys, I don't know. I can't.
it's just to the point that you made before. It's just like E3 is so close. Why wasn't this just like a 5-minute thing at E3? Show the trailer, make your apologies and whatever, and let's it's like we know that they're gonna have a conference that week. It's like what I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
kind of stupid.
Fluffy.
All right, so you guys, let us know. What do you guys think? What event did you like more? Try to be as non-biased as you can. Think about the event itself. Did the trailer itself hype you up enough that you didn't mind the 20-minute wait? Or did you like the approach of the college kids being like, yeah, Call of Duty?
Mountain Dew
so
Doritos.
let us know. So let us know in the comments, or you can go to tx3productions.com, give us a tweet, or you can go to our Discord. Our Discord will be in the description or at the top of our Twitter. All right, so let's head on to next. We're going to be talking about a weekly grind. All right, so on the weekly grind, this is where we get to talk about what we've been doing, what we've been playing, watching, and everything. So first up, we got H1Z1 came out with their open beta, and me and Nate got a little bit of hands-on with it, so we're going to talk about our impressions. First off, Nate, have you played, what other, Battle Royales have you played?
Fortnite. That's it. Yep.
Me too. See, us poor little PlayStation boys, we only got one Battle Royale to choose from, and so we get what we get. So yeah, me too. I've only had Fortnite, and it's had me. That's the only thing I have to compare this to. I can't tell you about PUBG, and so the PUBG lovers out there, you can shoot me down for that or whatever. So all I can
guys
talk
aren't playing
about
Radical Heights.
Radical Heights, I know, man.
I love that game, actually.
Right there.
I'm really sad that it's good. It's going away. I like it a lot.
So I've played Fortnite, and I've gotten into it. Obviously, I played it. I had a whole podcast about it. And I have to say that one of the main reasons, I don't know, back me up on this, Nate, if you agree, but one of the main things I don't necessarily like about Fortnite is taking one shot and maybe it either misses or it only does a small amount of damage, and then all of a sudden an entire fort goes up, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm dead.
Yeah. I actually, in my sessions with Fortnite, I haven't had to interact a whole lot with builders.
Oh yeah? Well, God, you're lucky.
Well, it's because I'm the one that I'm gonna stick to the side and kind of sneak and see how far I can get. I'm not going into Twisted Towers or whatever and trying to or is it Tilted Towers? Tilted Towers, yeah.
Yeah, Tilted,
yeah. One of them.
Yeah.
Twisty Shores, right?
Everything has alliteration, so yeah, it's Tilted Towers, Salty Shores.
Salty Shores, yeah. I haven't played that much Fortnite.
Snobby Shores, sorry. God, even I'm getting it wrong.
But yeah, I haven't interacted with builders a whole lot, so but I agree in the sense of I don't like the shooting in Fortnite at all.
Oh, really?
Huh.
It's well, compared to H1Z1, yeah, I see what people talk about when they complain about Fortnite shooting compared to something like a PUBG. So okay, I'm pretty battle royale novice. I don't have very many games in Fortnite. I honestly don't know how many, but I know it's not a whole lot. But my first game of H1Z1, I played it first day it came out on last Tuesday, and I'm like, right off the bat, oh my God, Fortnite is so much more polished than this. This looks like a dog.
Oh God, yeah, right.
It's awful. But I think I made it to 34 my first round, and I was just kind of walking around, or I was trying to get to inside the circle, and I heard a four-wheeler, and I had an Uzi and a crossbow, and I look to my side, and he's coming, and I point my Uzi down, and I get a couple shots off, and he runs me over. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to play something else. And then the next 2 days, I tried to get on, and each time I was sitting in a 10-minute queue before I even got to a match.
Ooh, yeah.
So
it was pretty bad.
I was like,
oh
God.
Too?
Yeah, it was for two reasons. For one, I think obviously because it is an open beta, there's a lot of people just checking it out. Sure. Plus, this is obviously the first time that it's come to. I mean, us poor PlayStation boys, like we only had Fortnite. So like when you hear all this stuff about PUBG and you don't have a way to try it out yourself, H1Z1 comes out, it's something similar to PUBG. Just if you look at two of them, don't even try for a second to say that they're not the same. I'm sorry. Anyways, but you see it and you're like, okay, this is like PUBG. I've heard so much about it. It's free. Why not try it out? So that's number one. Number one is a ton of people signed on to try it out. That's number one. Number two is they were also doing like a crap ton of maintenance. Yeah. Like I think that's their only excuse. Their only excuse is that it's a lot of people were there. But what I don't think they have an excuse is that the game itself has been out for so freaking long.
Yeah, right.
You know, granted they haven't been working on it for the PlayStation 4, but it's been out for so long. How can you
see? Here's the thing though. It makes me wonder if this is a completely new game. Simply because the way that they're marketing this is, hey, this is H1Z1's Battle Royale mode. They make no mention to H1Z1's King of the Kill. None of that. Like this point. Is H1Z1's Battle Royale modes, which makes me think that they looked at what they did in that original mode and was like, hey, we need to make something new. So that's probably why. Because if you look at marketing, it's just that's all they say is they make no mention whatsoever to the original mode that they had.
True. And I think another thing is they did a lot to make it more console friendly. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, in the PC version, you have to pick up attachments, you have to craft certain stuff, and so they're like, that's not very console friendly. You can't exactly bring up in the heat of battle, you can't exactly bring up like a window and then expect people to click on stuff. So instead, what they did is they went a little bit more Fortnite and they made different rarities. And so only the higher rarities even have scopes on them, for instance.
Oh,
and so they did certain... Yeah. And I kind of like that as far as like your base level weapons don't have anything on them but their crosshairs. And so I kind of like that just because it's like only going into certain... like military crates, you'll get something green or higher, and you'll finally start getting some iron sights, or not iron sights. You'll get some red dot sight is what I'm trying to. I'm like radical height sights. I don't know. The overall gameplay once you got into it the last couple days, how did it turn out for you?
It actually got better. Like I almost got in right away, and it's one of those things that I was playing it. I think I ended up getting to 19 my second round, my second play session. Yeah, and it was getting down to the wire. It got to the point where the circle was very small in this one area, and so everyone was flooding towards me. But I had gotten to this burger shop. And there was a bunch of gear there, and so I got some stuff, and then I heard a car pulling up, and then so I walked around the side of the building, and he was kind of doing what I was doing, and I managed to get the drop on him, and I killed him. And the moment I got that kill on him, I was like, "Ooh, that felt good. That felt really good." And then I got like 2 more kills, and then I ended up getting killed. But it was one of those things that after I got killed, I was like, "Oh." I should have just thrown a grenade in there. Like it was one of those, okay, I really want to play another one. I think I had to go do something.
That's how they can get you.
But yeah, right? It was the first time in a battle royale game that I was like, "Ooh, I want to play more."
Yeah, where it really got the hooks in.
Yeah. And I have to admit, once again, obviously I played Fortnite. I had a lot of time on Fortnite. This definitely has a different feel to it. Now, I definitely don't agree with you as far as the shooting in Fortnite, because I actually really like the shooting for 2 reasons. For one, it's Epic Games and they're really good at shooters, but the number 2 is I play a lot of the Save the World, which is the co-op version of Fortnite.
I can see that. I can see that.
I'm really used to the shooting. So I like the shooting, and I feel it's very tight and very responsive, and the shotguns and they feel hefty and everything. Definitely, I would say Fortnite is to Call of Duty as H1Z1 is to Battle Battlefield, because you have to be a lot more tactical. You have to worry about bullet drop, and you just have to be more mindful. Whereas Fortnite is a very mainstream battle royale. It is go have some fun, dick around with some people, and just, have fun, really.
Sure.
Whereas H1Z1, just from that first drop, like, I could tell it was just different. For one, getting to the center was hard. Like,
Yeah.
there was a YouTube video. I'm sorry, I can't credit whoever did it, but it's like tips on, I want to say it was PlayStation Grenade, honestly, because I watch him a lot. But he actually says how you should make a car part of your inventory, because, like, without a car, it can be really hard staying to the center of the gas.
I ran.
Oh yeah.
They tried to.
I ran so far away.
They give you a lot of instances to get a vehicle. Like whenever I was running, I saw so many 4-wheelers and trucks.
And you're like, F this, I got it.
Yeah, because I could hear everyone like with the 4-wheelers and trucks, and so I was trying to be as stealthy as possible. I mean, and it worked to an extent. I got to like top 15. I think I got higher than 19.
Right.
Yeah, I was 14. I died at 14. So, I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a, it was like that Fortnite video that someone made in real life where the dude's running with the storm in the background. And I was like several times because I was like, the gas is right behind me.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I was saying, cars feel like a lot more of a necessity, or you just really have to be more mindful with your time. Whereas like Fortnite, I feel like I've been on the other side of the map so far away from the storm, and pretty much as soon as the timer started, I had to run the entire time to get to the safety. Wait, what am I saying? I don't remember what I'm saying.
Fortnite feels a lot more calm to me, like compared between the two. Like I feel like in Fortnite, I'm like, I got plenty of time. I'll be fine.
I think that's what I was trying. I got it mixed up halfway through. Sorry. So Fortnite, I can get there with some time to spare is what I was trying to say. Like I can be running and be like, oh, here's something over here. I can scavenge real fast and still make it inside the circle. That's what I was going for. I'm sorry, everybody listening. I'm sorry. So I can make it there and still feel like I have some time to spare or something. Whereas H1Z1, I do feel like if you're running, you have to either hope that luck is on your side or you have to be running the entire time. And I don't feel like you have to manage your time much more. It's like you better be very confident in your looting speed for you to be like, okay, I have to stop here then. But also I feel like because bandages can heal you up to 100, whereas bandages in Fortnite can only heal you up to 75. As long as I got plenty of bandages, I don't mind being in the gas. If it means like, oh, hey, here's this really good crate over here, and it might take me a while to get there, but then I'll just bandaged up afterwards.
Yeah.
So, also another thing that I think Fortnite needs to do immediately is I love the fact that there's a combat training in H1Z1. I absolutely love that. And so for anybody who doesn't know, combat training, basically it just drops you into a smaller part of the map and there's respawning. It doesn't count towards anything, so it's not like you actually get experience. You don't get like points towards a crate. You don't get any of the in-game currency or anything like that. But it's basically the island that you start on in Fortnite, but you get to respawn and you get a feel for the guns, you get a feel for the area, and I want to say after 5 or 10 minutes it'll just restart. So you do get stats, I believe. So it's like you got this many kills and this many deaths. But just being able to jump in and maybe just have some fun, is so much better than Fortnite, where it's like you get this little island, you can shoot at people, but it doesn't kill them, it doesn't hurt them. It's just for practicing. But how ungodly and popular Fortnite is, I get into a match and I'm on that island for maybe 10 seconds. Maybe. So I don't get enough time to practice. Having an entire mode where literally all you do is just shoot people and try to get used to the Uzi, get used to the crossbow. How much does the crossbow drop? And how much do I, like getting to know that stuff and then jumping into like a solo made my morale way higher. Yeah. And I feel like that's very important, especially in this type of game. I felt my first game, even though I want to say I was kind of the same, I probably made it to about 20, so I was only a little bit better than you. But I feel like the only reason I did that good was because I had that experience. I went in and I just dicked around on the combat training. And sometimes, like when I first get into it on like tomorrow, when I first go into a match, I'm going to do combat training first, warm myself up, and then get into a solo. And that's like invaluable, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that could give it the upper hand, just in the sense of like, hey, here's something to dip your feet into instead of just jumping right into the mode as is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great point, because one of the things that you expressed was, right, you played the first game and you got run over or whatever, and you're like, maybe I'll try this again tomorrow. Whereas if you did have, if you had gotten into that training and maybe gotten a little bit more familiar with the controls, maybe you would have done a little bit better in your first game and been more incentivized to play again.
Yeah. Maybe. So, I mean, overall, I feel like I'm kind of right where Nate is, where it's like I want to play more. I want to see how I do, and I want to see where it goes. I don't want to be too like, there's so many people on YouTube, they're already like putting out impressions, and it's like, how much does it suck? Who cares if you like it in the end? If you title your thumbnail, does it suck? It's like, don't put that in people's heads. Like, just give it a chance. Not only that, it is a beta. They do somewhat have an excuse. I hate to give people an excuse, but a beta is the perfect excuse, and so for them, even though I can admit the frustration is like, come on guys, this has been out for years. It is somewhat like, they do have somewhat of an excuse to just go ahead and be like, all right, like, give us some time. Like, here's the biggest thing that confused the hell out of me. They had single and fives in combat training, and they did not have duos. I'm like, what? It took them like a couple of days for them to finally unlock duos, but they had 5-man squads. So it's like, why? Why would you? Why would you? Like, you want to test out 5 people before you test out 2? It didn't make any sense. And I did try getting in with squads with 5 people. It was hard. So you would think getting in with a single person would have been so much easier. Why? It was just a weird thing. So, up next, let's talk about Deadpool. We all seen it. We all liked it, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was way better than the first one.
Oh yeah, good.
I'm excited to talk about that.
Oh yeah, let's jump right into that. First off, we'll keep it pretty spoiler free, and then maybe towards the end of it, maybe we'll give you a timestamp to skip forward or something. But your overall synopsis of Deadpool 2. Go, Pete.
Cool. So I liked
Pete.
Deadpool.
I choose you. Sorry.
So I liked Deadpool 2. I didn't love it. I think it's a solid, early summer blockbuster kind of movie. It's got a lot of laughs. I think the cast is good. But my big issue with it is something that I thought was a problem with the first Deadpool, but is far more egregious here, which is that I think it really tries to force sentimentality into a place where it doesn't belong.
Okay.
I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, but I definitely like the character enough. I've read a good amount of his books, and I think you can have Deadpool have an emotional core, but I don't think that like he's a character I want to see like fall in love and become a father. And I feel like the fact that they kind of took the meat of the movie and sandwiched it between these two very like heavy emotional moments just feels very kind of like out of place. And I really just feel like it's unnecessary.
Yeah. And it always makes you feel it always makes you wonder when they do stuff in the movie, are they doing it to be meta or is it just bad writing? You know, is it them adhering to cliches and that's a bad thing, or are they adhering to cliches to make fun of the cliches? And in many circumstances they do, but in that circumstance, like you said, having that emotional core, did they do that because they wanted to make Deadpool sentiment, or were they making fun of the fact that some consequences are forced on superheroes and it's a statement rather than bad writing?
I think in this case, I think it is bad writing, because I agree with you for the most part, because I think Deadpool proper, like, and I think the first movie did a great job of this. They are kind of deconstructions of superhero movies, you know, like they're lampooning tropes. And I think in this case, though, it's an example of them wanting to have their cake and eat it too. Like they want to be making fun of superhero movies, but it's still a superhero movie. And I think that's fine when it's like the jokes of like, how come I never see any of the other X-Men around this place? You know, like the budget or whatever, right?
God damn, I loved that.
That was a great bit. Like that.
Oh my God.
So that to me is a great example of how you do that, right? Or like the way that they play up the like we're gonna get the team together kind of moments. Like those things are funny, and I think like there isn't any joke with the emotional stuff. It's just the emotional stuff, and it just doesn't feel like it really adds anything to the movie.
Yeah. Other than it makes him more relatable, but I feel like
you can do that with the kid.
We didn't need it.
Like you can just make him care about a kid, and that's like, oh, okay, he's a person.
Yeah, right. And I can see what you mean there, because like I feel like the first movie, the storyline, the fact that it was actually kind of a romance, like it took a lot of people by surprise, and weird. I think it did it in a good way. Whereas this one, by them trying to be more self-aware and be like, oh, this is a family film, and it's like, and by the end it came back around to, hey, this is a family film. It's like, yeah, but you called it out. Just because you call it out doesn't necessarily mean that you have an excuse or something. But I can see what you mean. I am definitely more on the positive side. I feel like this was, first off, I was very worried going into it because after Infinity War, like I wasn't sure if anything else could even like impress me, because I was like, I was so in love with Infinity War. I was actually like, I talked to my wife beforehand. I'm like, I'm worried that like me loving Infinity War was going to affect me even being able to like it. Like in an alternate universe, could I see this and absolutely love it because I didn't see Infinity War, or is me watching Infinity War going to make me hate it? Luckily, I loved it either way.
Yeah.
And I think it is because it was a good evolution of the movie, because even though there was like a lot more action and maybe even a lot more jokes or whatever, what I loved about the first one and what I love about this one is that none of the jokes, even though they are jokes, none of the jokes felt forced. They felt natural to me. It felt, well, let's put it this way. They felt earned.
I agree.
Nothing was like, nothing was like setup, punchline, which like even a lot of like raunchy comedies or, you know, any rated R comedy, you can see the punchline coming a mile away. And in a lot of times in a Deadpool movie, because there are no rules. Sometimes the punchlines like take you off guard, or the punchline was exactly what you were thinking and you're like, thanks, man.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I feel like the one issue I have with some of that stuff is I think some of the more like meta kind of like, meme humor, some of that felt like low-hanging fruit. But I think for the most part, I definitely agree that like when...
Well, you know how Wade feels about low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think for the most part, when the movie just tried to be funny, it was, and it was great.
Right, definitely.
See, in my opinion, the reason why I like Deadpool 2 better than 1 is because I really enjoyed Deadpool 1, but both times I saw it, or three, I think I saw it 3 times. Every time I saw it, I felt the same way of, I like this movie, it's enjoyable, but it feels super hollow.
Yeah.
I can see
Deadpool
that, yeah.
2
That's
seems
the budget
like
for you.
Deadpool 2 seems like it has a lot more substance to it in more
Definitely.
ways than 1. I can agree with the shoehorning in of like, the emotional resonance. I feel like maybe what happened there, and I guess we can say now, like we'll get into a little bit of spoilers.
Sure.
We're into a little more deep discussion. I think when they were writing it, because they start the movie off with him winding up the Logan log rock thing. So, and
great.
Deadpool even says like, that fucker went and died in his movie, so now I have to do the same thing. So maybe whenever they were writing it, they were like, let's have this be a point. How do we get there?
Right.
But honestly, I feel like the whole Vanessa thing, I think it added like an important story beat to the structure of the movie. I feel like if that wouldn't have been in there, then a lot of the stuff that they put in there wouldn't have made, everything else wouldn't have made sense. And I think the best use of it was the end. Because he finally got to this point. He's dead. Like he's talking with his girlfriend, his wife, whatever. And like for a second there, I was like, I didn't see Cable going back in time. Like whenever she was like, "It's not your time," I thought it was just one of those, "Oh no, you're not ready to die yet." Not at the same time, Cable is winding up his watch to go back in time to save Wade.
Yeah.
So, and I felt like that was earned in a sense. Yes and no. I'm half and half on that because Cable didn't really show any affection to Wade the entire film whatsoever, and at the very end you save him?
Yeah, and they kind of were like, oh yeah, we're best friends now, and it's like, okay. Yeah, that I agree with you, where I feel like the moment, like in the moment it feels like it plays, but it also is kind of like, wasn't your whole mission to like save your family? Like, I know like you made the future better, but no? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing about time, him saving Russell means that Cable wouldn't even be there, because the reason he went there was to save his family. Is if his family, I was expecting a Back to the Future joke, and he was going to be slowly disappearing because he's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, to go off of that, I was hoping for a Thanos joke, and I feel like the one that they did was too subtle, but I honestly think I would have liked it a lot more is as he was fading, him going, "I don't feel so good," or something like that.
Yeah, but it's like, like by the time they would have no way of knowing that was even the bit, right? Like,
yeah,
that would have been perfect though.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was a little weird, and so him going in back in time to save Deadpool rather than just disappearing right then and there is probably the only part of the film I didn't necessarily like. I honestly thought that maybe what they were gonna do is, okay, so Deadpool gets ripped in half, and then his bottom half grows feet. So who's to say that his top half grows feet? So who's to say his bottom half doesn't grow a head and chest? So like I was expecting them to do like a fake out. You remember Oblivion with Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
How he dies, but it's like, hey, here's a brand new Tom Cruise that we got from one of the cloning sites.
Yeah.
So I was expecting like his bottom half to come and be like, oh, hey guys, what I miss or something like that. But for Cable to just go back in time when he shouldn't have been able to go back in time in the first place, it's like how smart the writers are and how they think of every joke that that they should, and everything. Like, I feel like they thought of everything that they should have thought of it, and that one thing that it's like they should have thought of that. Cable shouldn't have been there because his family's safe, and therefore he would have never gone back in time. So why is he still there to be able to save Dead? I feel like that's something they should have thought about, and that's like honestly one of the only negative things I have.
I guess the only thing that I can think of is like sometimes time travel rules like are a little different, like, because if you like are subscribing to like a multiverse theory, like it's like, is he creating a splintering timeline by going back in time, so like the timeline that he is from still exists, but you know what I mean, like there is some comic book explanation there that makes sense,
because in some realities, if Cable wouldn't have gone back in time, that all that stuff may not have happened. You know, that's kind of that's kind of one of those lines you walk. But can we all agree that the best fucking part, the best high of that movie was at the very end when he got them to fix that time machine? Yes. I was in my seat fucking dying through like the first one I was like, okay, that's funny, and then the second one when they do the origins thing, I was like, I cannot believe they just fucking did that.
Yeah, for me it was the Green Lantern one. Like
the Green Lantern one
that
was fantastic.
Was so fucking. He's like, we got to clean up the timeline. Like that was a good bit.
I wish they would have had "Gotta Go Back in Time" in the background. Gotta go back in time. Gotta go back. And like if they should have had that playing the entire like sequence, that would have been awesome.
I agree. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think it's better than the first one simply because it feels more important rather than like, I think Deadpool by itself can be just a by itself movie. And one small thing I really like about Deadpool 2 is it kind of brings you into that X-Men world that's not an X-Men story. Like, because you see things like the DMC, you know, the Department of Mutant Control. And you see all that kind of like more like hell with even Peter, you know, it's like these movies I feel like can be like, oh yeah, there is this actual real life world in this universe. It's not just what crazy shit's going on with the X-Men.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that is what I was talking about as far as like the evolution of the movie itself. It no longer is the tale of Deadpool's revenge. The tale of Deadpool's revenge, obviously for financial reasons, took place on a bridge and at a shipyard. Yeah. Two locations. They didn't have to spend that much on them. And so the bulk of the stuff was very manageable. Whereas this time, you know, kind of like what you were saying, it just felt more rich. It felt more lived in. We got to see, obviously, not only more of the X-Men, but more of the world itself.
Yeah, like getting to see like characters like Domino and stuff like that kind of flesh things out a little bit.
Yes.
And she was a fantastic character.
She was great. I wish they had done a little bit more with her, but I did like her quite a bit, and I'm glad that she appears to, you know, is going to be a mainstay in the series. But I have to say, like, I don't know that I agree that it was better. I kind of think that, like, I liked that the first movie was a little bit smaller, and that it was like more focused on like you said, like it feels like this movie is more important, and I like Deadpool
I could see that.
Stories to be less important, you know? Like I think them to be kind of irreverent.
I think if the highs were higher, I think if we had the same highs we have in Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 1, I would like Deadpool 1 more. But I just feel like the highs are way higher in 2, and it kind of gives it the edge for me. Yeah. But it's one of those that and if you look at it this way too, they knew that Infinity War was going to eat their lunch. So it's one of those that it's still this important story, like you're doing with time travel and end of world kind of shit, but it feels small scale. It feels like Infinity War feels like a main story mission, and Deadpool 2 feels like a side quest.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think we all enjoyed it or whatever. Whether or not it was better or worse than the first one, I think that at the very least, it definitely lived up to it. Me and Nate, obviously, yeah, we think it's better, but I feel there is something to be said of being able to not fall into the sequelitis and be worse than the first one. I feel like that's something I feel like that is something to commend. You know, there's plenty of movies out there that a lot of people say were worse than the first one, but I think that's because they were expecting it to be like so much better than the first one. And so since it was just as good, they think that's a bad thing. It's like there is something to be said about consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Well, of course, I said it. You don't become the founder of Threat X3 Production for not being a badass. Okay. Annie hosers. Get it? Deadpool's Canadian.
Pretty good.
Or wait, Ryan Reynolds is. Anyways. So, up next, we're going to talk about the topic of the show. Today's topic of the show, I think, is pretty obvious to anybody. We're going to talk about E3. In the show notes, it says predictions. I don't even know if we could technically call them predictions.
I've got predictions.
It's kind of hard to predict when there's just... I mean, we live in the age of internet, and it is so hard to keep things secret. And it's even harder when, like, PlayStation, for instance, like, hey, here's everything you're going to see. And I think even, like, who else did that? No, Microsoft didn't do that.
No, Microsoft didn't do that.
They've been vague.
Who was it? Was it Square's? No, it's not Square.
No, yeah, Square.
Square? Did they
no.
just outright say, or was it Bethesda? I can't. Somebody else did it too. They're like, hey, here's everything you're going to see. On the one hand, it's like, okay, great. You're trying to temper our expectations. So it's not, we don't expect another like Last of Us type of reveal, like something so mind altering, you know, they're trying to temper our expectations,
which
but
is
at the
smart.
same time, it's smart to a certain extent, but it's like, that is part of the hype. Part of the hype is not knowing what's coming. And granted, yes, they're going to throw something here and there.
That's my thing. I feel like they'll still surprise us.
Yeah, I know. I just... them telling me that we're going to see Death Stranding again, it's like, yay, I guess. I mean, I don't need to see that again. I don't need to see Last of Us again. I'm gonna buy Last of Us, you know? And so I don't need to see it. I don't need to be excited for it because it's a done deal for me. It's not something that I'm worried about. And I don't know, them telling me, other than Ghost of Tsushima, which honestly that does look interesting.
I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Right. I am interested because it's something so far away from what we've had from them before that it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Sucker Punch just makes quality software too, you know?
Right. Exactly. And the fact that, you know, we are still going to get an open world from them, we know they do good at that. So now put it in, you know, feudal Japan. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, for instance, when Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's like that Guerrilla logo came up, and then we got Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like, whoa, Guerrilla made this?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
It's like, it was so far away from what we're used to from Guerrilla. Now, granted, we're still getting, I think it's still going to be a third-person shooter, and it's still going to be an open world, but it's so different from Infamous, so in the opposite direction of Infamous, that's what excites me. I'm like, okay, give me another Horizon, but now I'm in feudal Japan. Something that I wasn't expecting from Sucker Punch, but I can still get really excited about.
I swear to God, if I have to collect orbs in Ghost of Tsushima, I'm going to fucking rage quit.
Oh, okay. Hey, give Onimusha some love, okay?
Dude, how else are you gonna power up your ghost blade?
Oh my God, dude.
Right?
Like,
ghost orbs.
See, now it wasn't terrible in Second Son, but dude, like I got bored. There was like one period of time where I was like, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna platinum Infamous 1, and like I took on the task of doing what we used to do in old school gaming, and I had on one monitor the map of the world in Infamous 1 in Microsoft Paint with a fucking paintbrush, picking off each orb that I found. Now I know we've gotten way far and past that, but I got to the point like in Infamous Second Son, I'm still collecting orbs, collectibles. I was like, dude, like, but see, here's the thing with the PlayStation. I think that like Pete said, I think there's going to be a lot that they're going to show us. The way I see it is, I think them saying that, hey, this is what's going to be seen, is them going, hey, these are the main things we're going to be talking about, but that's not it. You know, this is what we're telling you our some of our focus is going to be. Well, basically, the way I understood it was, we're going to really spotlight these games, but that doesn't mean that's going to be everything. And I'm actually excited about seeing more about Last of Us 2. Like, I don't want to know a whole lot, but I would rather see that than Death Stranding.
Yeah, I will admit that, because
I'd rather
the
see
only thing we get
anything
from
than
Death Stranding,
I'm so sick
the
of
only
seeing
thing we
that game.
get from it is just so weird and out of yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess another thing that a lot of people like online and Reddit and stuff like that are getting worried about is that they gave us the same kind of tempering of expectations right before PSX, and we got a way different thing from PSX. Now, granted, this is still E3, this is still Hype Train 101, but it's just it is a little bit worrying. So let's get right into it. Pete's gonna tackle Nintendo. Nate is going to tackle Xbox One, and I am going to tackle PlayStation. So let's go one at a time. Let's start with Pete. You're our guest.
Sure. So my number one prediction for Nintendo's E3 this year is, we already know that they're talking about Smash, right? And I think the big question, right, is kind of like, what is this game? You know, there's a lot of debate on whether it's actually a new Smash or not. My prediction is that it is. I'm pretty convinced that this is a new Smash. I don't necessarily buy into all the leaks that we've been seeing coming out the last couple weeks, because it's leak season, you know, and there's, for every truth, there's 2 or 3 lies.
Right. This is the season you really need some Depends.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So I think, for me, though, based on what we've already seen from the game and how they're talking about it and how they're marketing it, I'm very much convinced that it's a brand new game, and that it's possible that it's built on the bones of Smash 4 in some way. You know, maybe like an evolution of that engine. But I think, like, given how they announced the game, right? That big reveal trailer, the fact that it's not called Super Smash Brothers for Switch, they're just calling it Super Smash Brothers right now. Even in the E3 like press stuff that we've seen, they've called it like the new Super Smash Brothers or whatever, as opposed to really they've been very dodgy about it. And I think if you look at how they've marketed every other Wii U remaster or deluxe edition or whatever you want to call them, they've been very upfront that that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So I imagine that it being the main focus, right? My guess is we're going to see a very, very hefty amount of gameplay from it, similar to what we've seen with Mario and Zelda the last 2 E3s, and that's going to be the kind of the crux of it. And then the fact that they have that invitational as well, we'll actually get to see it in action for the first time with some of the best players in the world. So I think they're not going to blow their whole load, but I think we're going to start seeing some of the new maps. I'm guessing we're going to see 1 or 2 new characters. I think they're going to prove to us what's different here. Yeah,
definitely. I'm excited for the reason, just like, I don't know, like, I don't feel like you can be you have to turn in your gamer card if you're like, oh, I've never even played Smash. It's like everybody knows a guy who has a Nintendo system, and even if you don't have a Nintendo system yourself, you've played Smash, I would think. And
it's like a formative experience, you know, like whether it was when you were, you know, a kid, you're in high school, you're in college, like there is some point where you had some stretch of time where you were playing Smash.
Definitely. Yeah. And so I feel like everybody can kind of, you know, get excited for it, just because it's like, it's another one. And it's like, when you think of your Deadpool experiences with fighters, Smash is definitely up there. And then you talk about the Invitational, and if they put it on like they've put it on a lot of their other tournaments, like I like how they present it. I like it's very professional looking. Like I've watched their Splatoon 2 Invitational. I've watched a couple like their what's the one where it's all the Nintendo, like even like old school. It's like it's a Nintendo tournament. World Cup, yeah. That one was god, it was put together. Oh yes, and I love the way they, and it even then you put in the hype meter of Smash, and it's like the first time that people are able to put their hands on it. I feel like it's gonna be really fun, even if you're not super into it, being able to see it in that light is probably the best way to do it.
I think also building on that, to me, the thing that's most interesting is this is the first time in a long time that gamers, like hardcore gamers, have been really pro Nintendo, like fucking high on Nintendo.
Right.
Because you think about it, right? Like even the Wii U was a smashing success, but it was
smashing,
but it was a thing that, like, if you were a core gamer, you owned a few pieces of software, and by halfway through its life cycle, it was collecting dust, unless you were playing Smash definitely. On it, and I think people are so into the Switch. People are so activated on the Switch in a way that I really feel like that enthusiasm has been waning for Nintendo in the last couple generations. That I think this is going to be huge.
Yeah. Would you say they're switched on to it?
I think they are. I think you could say that these gamers are switched on.
Sorry, I can't pass up a good pun.
You don't ever apologize for a good pun. I read superhero comics, sir. I love a good pun.
All right, so let's get our first Xbox out of the way then.
So my first prediction for Xbox is Crackdown's release is going to be this year. Kind of a bonus point thing, but I could also see this happening. It's available either now or within the next coming weeks or so.
You think?
I could. Well, here's the thing. Crackdown 3's been in
early access, maybe.
Crackdown 3's been in development. Okay, I'll change it. Crackdown 3 for sure is going to be this year. If it's not, I think people are going to have a really big problem with it because I feel like this game is not going to live up to anybody's expectations. So I
agree with that.
I think is what they could do is, and if you are, I'm speaking as if I was on the press conference, and if you have Game Pass, you have early access to it now, or early access to the multiplayer or something like that.
To a beta or something even.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I could definitely see that. It definitely is one of those or get off the pot moments because it's a joke at this point. And I mean, it is a joke that exclusives are a joke at this point. You have Sea of Thieves, which to some, there's still some people out there that are very loyal to it. But to a lot of people, it was a No Man's Sky situation. And then you even have State of Decay, which was kind of the same thing. You have loyal people who love the first State of Decay. And like me, I would get an Xbox One for State of Decay. If I had the money and the means to get an Xbox One and it wouldn't like mean I don't get rent this month, I would get it just for State of Decay and State of Decay 2. But the problem is that... Go ahead.
I would honestly tell you, because from all the stuff that I've seen, you could just play Days Gone. Because from my understanding, Days Gone is just like State of Decay with a storyline.
Yeah, and see, and that's the problem is that you look at an Xbox exclusive and you see the potential, but what Microsoft is having a problem with is like, I think they're trying too hard. It's like, hey, let's get this game out now because we have to win a race. But when you're the freaking tortoise in the back, real life is different, guys. Real life is not a story, and turtles don't freaking win against a rabbit. PlayStation is the rabbit. What?
That's why I say I think it would benefit. That's why I said what I said is I think it would honestly benefit them if they treated Crackdown 3 not this big tentpole exclusive like a Halo or a Gears, but hey guys, Crackdown 3's been in development for a while and it's available coming soon, or it's available now.
Now.
Like, if they treated it as just another good game in their roster rather than, hey, here's an exclusive for the fall. Like, I feel like that could give better reception. You know, kind of in the same way like Ratchet and Clank came out, and it's probably one of the PS4's best games, the newest Ratchet and Clank. But they sold it at a discount, and they were like, hey, we got a new Ratchet and Clank coming out. It wasn't, hey, here's this tentpole exclusive we have.
Yeah. And I think the problem with that, too, though, is, right, like, Sony can do that because they have so much development power compared to Xbox, which owns comparatively... like a third of the amount of studios. So that's tough when you're looking at, to your point, Nick, right? Like, they're two big exclusives that we had been looking forward to, Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2, and, like, your mileage may vary on how good they are, but they certainly didn't set the world on fire, you know? And I don't know that they're as bad as, like, a No Man's Sky situation, but if that's what you're hanging your hat on, when... PS4 has Horizon last year, God of War this year, Uncharted 4 a couple of years before that. They are putting out smaller games like, the Uncharted spin-off or Gravity Rush or whatever. And it's like no fucking contest, right? Like, and especially all the fucking Xbox exclusives are on on PC. Where it's like, I don't own an Xbox because the only games that have really motivated me were like Cuphead and Sunset Overdrive. I'm not going to buy it for one game, and Cuphead's on PC. So,
yeah, and I do feel like Crackdown is another situation like Sea of Thieves and even State of Decay, where the Crackdowns I remember, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong because I didn't play a ton of it, but the Crackdowns I remember were very open-ended, and there wasn't necessarily a mission structure. It was more just like, hey, go have fun in the city.
They were a lot like Just Cause. From my experience with the Crackdown games, they were
I would
like
agree.
Just Cause.
My experience is pretty limited, but from the time I did spend with Crackdown 2, I think that's a pretty good comparison.
I think it had mission structure like GTA, but overall gameplay getting from mission to mission was like Just Cause.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, I don't remember there necessarily being missions. I remember there being bosses that you had to take down, but it was very open-ended in the way you could take them down, because it was pretty much just, like cause enough chaos and stuff so that then you go. I don't know. I'm not the one to talk, but going back to what I was saying before, as far as the open-endedness of it, we've already had two create your own adventures. We've had a pirate create your own adventures and a zombie apocalypse create your own adventures. And I feel like, especially from a Microsoft fan perspective, maybe they're kind of sick of that. They've gotten burned twice this year about a create your own adventure. Maybe they want more of a structure. Maybe they want more of a God of War type of thing where it's like, here's this grand adventure that you can go on. Doesn't have to be exactly God of War, but no, let's say Gears of War. Get a Gears of War, and it's very story driven, and it is something to write home about.
Or like a Halo, right? Like they have IP that or Fable. I would love to see fucking Fable come back, and we heard rumors about that. That would be fucking amazing. But I think, to your point, like, I feel like this reminds me a lot of what happened with, and maybe one of you guys can help me with the studio. Was it Sony's? I don't remember which Sony studio it was that was the incubator that was getting a lot of the like games as service kind of games out, like Drawn to Death, and they worked with
Santa Monica.
It was Santa Monica. Okay, I was gonna say that, but I hedged. So I feel like it reminds me a lot of the situation with Sony Santa Monica, where they're like, oh, this is the thing, right? Like MOBAs are the thing, or games as services are the thing, or free-to-play games are the thing. So we got to try and get in on that. And right. I feel like they're just proving that they don't really seem to have the vision for it. Mm-hmm. And it sucks to see. And State of Decay is obviously like kind of a more traditional game, but I'd rather see Rare make a fucking platformer. It's like, just give me a Banjo-Kazooie game or something. Like, I'd be into that.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Then we'll go on to PlayStation 4. one of my predictions is Blue Point or someone else is going to come out with another remake. Blue Point has already been in the talks of making another remake.
Yeah, they've been teasing us for a bit.
Yeah, ever since Shadow Colossus was their last one, which I never finished Shadow of the Colossus. I finished it in the remake state, and oh my god, not only was it gorgeous, but I tried to play through it on other occasions, and the simplest thing of changing jump from triangle to X really fixed it for me. Like, my brain wasn't broken trying to play it. So for me, that little change fixed it for me. And I would love to see Blue Point take another shot. There has been rumors for Metal Gear Solid. There's been wish lists of Crash Team Racing.
Yes!
God, please. But one that I think is the most likely is maybe an Ape Escape. And this could fit along with Crash Bandicoot. It could fit along with Spyro, which just got announced and it's going to be coming out. They're going to have that. So an Ape Escape, I think, could kind of fit along with the remakes we've been getting. There's even a Medieval, for instance. So
right,
this
and they did
could
that port
fit
of like
along.
Parappa. They did did a couple other ones like that as well, where they were like not necessarily from the ground up, but even just like a nice fresh coat of paint, and
Yeah. And so, yeah, Ape Escape, I think, could be a nostalgic reimagining. I would like to see Ape Escape get the Ratchet and Clank treatment. It's built back up from the ground up. It is the Ape Escape that you know and love, but then they add stuff, because that's what happened with Ratchet and Clank. They gave you the original Ratchet and Clank, but they made sure to add to it and to obviously make it look absolutely, Pixar gorgeous. And so to see Ape Escape look gorgeous and to maybe fix things like, hey, this platform was always trip people up, so let's fix that. I love Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, but I have to admit that it would have been nice to have like each so there was 3 of them. Each of them have like two or three extra new levels that have never either been seen before or that were made specifically for the Insane Trilogy. I feel like I was expecting something more, and getting exactly the game was nice, but at the same time it's just like I've played this before. So it's nice to have it in my library. It's nice to play around with it and be nostalgic, but Ape Escape doing the Ratchet and Clank treatment, I think, would be absolutely fantastic. Give us some new stuff. Give us everything that we do expect, but more.
And to your other point, that's kind of what they did with oh my god, Shadow of the Colossus. Like, they added those extra Colossuses as well. So
yeah,
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so then back to Petey. Petey boy.
All right, so for number 2, we're going to see Pokemon, but people will be disappointed by how little we actually learn. I think historically Pokemon has not been something that we've seen at E3. Last year we got the confirmation that they were working on a Pokemon RPG for Switch, but it was like that weird cut of just, oh, hey, we're making the game, bye! I think we're going to get something like that and the tease of a direct that's going to come later. I'm not 100% sure on how I feel about all of those Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. It's like a yellow remake kind of thing. It seems like there's some, where there's smoke, there's fire on that one. But I doubt that we're going to really see the full breadth of it, because I do think they're going to focus on Smash. So maybe we get a teaser, maybe we get a small trailer, but I don't think it's going to be the big reveal that a lot of people seem to think is coming.
Yeah, some people seem to think that it's coming out like this year.
And I don't
know if it can.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it can. I feel like a March or a February, something like that, would actually do it some good, because there's a lot of people who are like terrified of like Red Dead Redemption. And
smartly
rightly so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, rightly so. I think it would be whatever they do. The one part of the rumor that I like that I'm paying attention to is the fact that it can integrate with Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Like them somehow integrating it to that, I think is just smart. Having something that has so many people, you could end up getting people to buy the Switch because they like Pokemon Go. It would be a really smart move.
Yeah, I think my concern there is I just hope it's not too much. Like, I think if it's similar to what they did with Soul Silver, where they had that, like, Poke Tracker thing, where it's just kind of like, oh, you can transfer some of your Pokemon over, or you can, like, get an exclusive outfit, like, fun little things like that maybe get you some, like, baseline extra content, great. But I remember there was that rumor that they're like, oh, they're going to add the AR ball flicking to, like, catch Pokemon. I'm like, I don't really want that. Like, if I can toggle it on or off, that's fine. But I don't want them to add too much of that shit, because what was fun about Pokemon Go was not the game. You know, it was the experience.
Oh, God, yeah.
So
yeah.
I think you're right that it behooves them to connect those things, but I hope that they do it in healthy moderation.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. Alrighty, Xbox One 2.
So my second prediction is Halo 6 is teased, but we won't see it on this generation.
Interesting. So,
and
do you think they're gonna, pack up shop and focus on the next one?
I think what they're gonna do for the now is do some sort of big update for Master Chief Collection, because they've been talking about doing the 4K update for it for the Xbox One X. So I think that they'll focus on that, and they'll have. I think they will tease Halo 6, but I honestly don't think that we're going to see it this console generation. I feel like we're too close to a new one, especially from Microsoft. I feel like Microsoft would have the balls to come out with a new console within the next 2 or 3 years, and I feel like Halo 6 would be a perfect launch game for it.
Yeah. And I mean, it might be the push they need to even do it in the first place. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've never been a big Halo guy, so I don't really want to talk on either side of that. Do you have anything to add, Pete?
I think you're probably right on that, Nate. I do think that a soft relaunch of the Master Chief Collection is probably coming. And I know there's been like some rumors that people think we might see like a Battle Royale mode for Halo. I think that's possible as well.
Okay, so my second prediction for PlayStation, now obviously like I said before, like having the 4 main things that they're going to talk about makes it a little bit harder. But one thing I feel like nobody else has mentioned, at least from the podcast I listen to and the shows I watch on YouTube, nobody's mentioned Bloodborne 2. We got a very, very short teaser. I mean, it's a tease of a tease, really.
Right, it was like a sentence.
Yeah, really. It showed like a bloody saw, and then it was just like, hey, Bloodborne 2. It's kind of like when they showed the logo of Metroid Prime 4. It's like, hey, here's the logo, and that's really all they showed.
Well, it was even less than that, right? Because I don't even think they actually called it out as Bloodborne 2. It was just like From Software, and it was like, what, Shadows Never Die or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't. I feel like I remember seeing a Bloodborne 2 logo, but it definitely wasn't like, I don't know, in any official. Anyways, it was at VGA. That was the last time we saw it. And so for me, I feel like it's the right time for us to see something else on it. And if you remember the very first time we saw Bloodborne, the original, it was also very vague. It was definitely a lot longer, but it was definitely it was still vague. And it was like, here's a picture of a couple of dogs, and maybe we got a sneak peek at like a hunter. So it was still very vague. And then the next time we saw it, it was a good kind of meaty chunk of gameplay. And so I kind of feel like it's the right time. We need to see what From Software is working on next, and we need to see Bloodborne again, whether it be just in the sizzle reel or something. I personally think there is going to be a quick gameplay. I don't know if they'll spend a lot of time with it. Like, I don't expect like a 10-minute gameplay But even if it's just a gameplay trailer where it's like, here's a flash here and here's a flash of a boss, and they want to put in some stuff that's going to make the nerds like, oh, let's speculate about this for about an hour or something. So but it's time. I think it's definitely time, not only considering that we saw it at VGA, but also just how long Bloodborne itself has been out, and the fact that Bloodborne, even though not a lot of people thought it was going to be big, it ended up being pretty big. Yeah. And so them being like, hey, here's another exclusive is just another, sword in their sheath, I think. And so it's time. I think it's pretty good.
I definitely agree with that. And I think, to your point, I feel like it's just like, they have to have something to show us at this point. They've been working on it for a while, whatever it is, So I don't know that we'll see gameplay, but I think seeing a story trailer or something like that that's a little more substantial and gives us an idea of what, like, the actual, like, not necessarily the setting, because if it's Bloodborne 2, it's going to be in that universe, but like what are we doing? What's the angle? Yeah. I feel like we're going to learn that.
Definitely. All right. So then what's your last thing you have for today?
So for my last one, this one I think it's a little bit more of a long shot, but I think that we're going to get a Animal Crossing tease in the same vein as Metroid Prime 4.
Okay, so like the logo, basically.
Yeah, and if it's not just a logo, I think it could be a thing of like maybe we get a little bit of music, maybe we hear the main theme, we get some little tease, but I think it's going to be a very small tease. Because I think Animal Crossing is kind of one of the it's kind of the last major Nintendo franchise that we have no idea what its future is on Switch. Right. Everything else has been teased or shown or confirmed,
even if you look at Pokemon Go, it's not too soon for another Pokemon, because there are, like you said, they at least said that, yes, it does exist, and yes, we are making it. So, that's a good point.
Yeah, right. And like, even like Metroid, right? Like we got a sizzle, or not a sizzle, but we got a logo. We got the confirmation that it exists, that it's coming out. And aside from that, it's really just Animal Crossing and Star Fox. And it's like Star Fox just had a new game on Wii U, so that makes sense that
if you can call it that.
It's a garbage pile, but I hate you, Platinum. But with Animal Crossing, the last Animal Crossing was 6 years ago. With New Leaf, unless you count Happy Home Academy, which I don't. And then we had the mobile game earlier this year or last year, late last year. So I feel like it's time. I think there's an audience for Animal Crossing. It's always been a big success for Nintendo, even though it's not necessarily something that I think appeals to a lot of core gamers at all times. It's something that definitely speaks to a big contingency of their audience, and has always been kind of a sleeper hit. So I think getting the confirmation that the next one is coming and getting some little nod to it is almost a foregone conclusion for me.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said about the strategy of their mobile games, because like they had Pokemon Go, and they're not letting that get in the way of them making another Pokemon Go. Obviously Fire Emblem, they're gonna have another Fire Emblem eventually, so it's not like just because they have a Fire Emblem on the mobile, they're not gonna make one,
right?
But also, speaking to the strategy again, like I said before about your Pokemon thing, is the fact that them having an Animal Crossing and a lot of people ended up enjoying it. That's to say that a lot of people could end up buying it, or buying a Switch, because they're like, hey, I really like this mobile game that I've been playing. And also they've been hearing about how good the Switch has been doing. And so it's Christmas time. They have Animal Crossing on their phone. They love Animal Crossing. They want to buy their kids a new system. And they're like, oh, there's an Animal Crossing game on this. My kid loves this game. Let me get it.
Yep. Yeah, man. So, I think, or if you're, if you're like, I think what seems to be their target demographic more so with the Switch is like, if you're like a 20-something, 30-something or whatever who likes Nintendo stuff but has been on the fence about getting the Switch, you're like, well, okay, we've got a Pokemon on the horizon, Animal Crossing's around the corner, I can pick up Zelda and, Mario and all these other things that I missed out on. Yeah, I feel like it makes sense. I feel like it's the next logical step.
Yeah. Alrighty, so let's get our last one from Xbox.
This may not be a prediction. This may be a foregone conclusion, but I think that Splinter Cell is going to be announced this E3, and I think it's going to be shown off first at Xbox's press conference.
Yeah,
I think that's a good call. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of partnerships like that. Frankly, I think Xbox is hungry and probably willing to spend some money for some key partnerships like that. So I think that's
thirsty,
a really
child.
good one.
They are thirsty.
Yeah, I can see them showing off at Xbox and then detailing it at Ubisoft, which they did before several times with the Assassin's Creed series in particular. Mm-hmm. They debuted at Xbox for Origins, and then at the Ubi conference, they were like, "Here's more about it." Now, I will say one thing: I'm going to be pissed on one end if Splinter Cell's an Xbox exclusive. On the other end, it will make me buy an Xbox. Splinter Cell will make me buy an Xbox One.
So yeah,
Interesting.
I think that's a good call. Yeah, I agree with that one.
Alrighty. Then my last PlayStation prediction. Call of Duty has a partnership with PlayStation that's been pretty obvious since
they don't hide it.
I mean, I want to say it was Black Ops. Was Black Ops the first official time they switched? I think so. Black Ops 3, I want to say is the... No, it might have been...
I think Black Ops 3... It was either Black Ops 3 or it was Infinite Warfare. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
I think so, it was that's when
Warfare. It was? Okay.
I think.
I think you guys are right. So either way, I mean, it hasn't been very much, a secret. I think... Instead, since they don't have a story, I mean, the one thing we are going to miss from E3s is they would always give a good, story trailer, and they would play through, a good, 5 or 10 minute chunk. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to miss that because they're
Shout
epic
out to Black Ops 1.
Yeah, right. They're epic, and they really set the tone of the game, because obviously the tone of the game carries over to the multiplayer as well. So I am going to miss that, but I think that maybe to show people that getting rid of the single player was worth it, I think what they need to do is they need to show Blackout at the PlayStation. They need to show it. They're not that stupid little thing that it's like, here's holograms of all the players you can play as, and hey, they're in helicopters. Yeah, but they fucking do. No, they need to, I think, to gain back some hypitude from mainstream people, not just the Call of Duty, suck boys, they need to show why did they get rid of the single player. This is why it's something that you need to take serious. It's not just something that they threw together in 6 months, which they did. It's something that you need to take serious, and the only way they can do that is to really show it. From the teaser trailer, we could see that there's there's special abilities, because the special abilities, like being able to put up cover or being able to have a riot shield or a grappling hook, those were in multiplayer, and they showed teases of that in it. But I mean, you really need to just put your cards out on the table. This is how Blackout's going to work. This is why it's the quote unquote Call of Duty way. Show us that way. Let us know that you might not get a storyline, or at least the one you really want, because you're still going to get those, character storylines, whatever those are going to be. But show us why we're missing out and why you believe in yourself enough to not put in a story. Because you had to have known when you look at Star Wars putting in a story for Battlefront 2, when you see Titanfall putting in a story for Titanfall 2, and then Call of Duty doing the exact opposite. Show us why. And if it's not good, I don't know if you can win back the mainstream, because the mainstream are the people bitching about the single player. Whether or not they even play it, those are the people bitching about
Right, and I think the thing is, E3 is the time that the mainstream pays attention. So
Exactly.
I think having a really good showing of Blackout this is where you switch the narrative. You know, where people are like, F the story. That looks great. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
agreed.
That's the
And
chance to do it.
It could
anyway.
definitely work in their favor. So,
Yeah, and I think coming out at Sony's conference and like being one of the things that catches people's attention aside from the Sony games is, especially there's a lot of space this year, you know? Historically, at least for the PlayStation 4's life cycle, Sony's E3s have been pretty packed. And the fact that they're like, we're 4 games. Like, okay, cool. That leaves a lot of space for the third parties to do cool. So
yeah.
I think having like a hands-on Blackout thing with like maybe they get some of the top tier Call of Duty players to come in and do like a like a Let's Play kind of experience thing that they chop up, would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, just show me the reason you're not doing it. I'm convinced. I mean, like I said before, I'm not a huge single player, so I'm convinced. But convince other people, convince the naysayers, convince everybody who makes videos specifically calling you out on your single player. Because Treyarch, they know the internet exists. They have to know all the criticism that they're getting. So if they don't prove to people why it's gone, then I don't know if they can get back the good grace that they really, really need at this point. So that's our predictions. That's what we think or what we hope happens. You guys let us know. You can go to TX3 Productions on Twitter, threatx3productions.com, and you can go to our discussions there, or you can just email us, threatx3productions@gmail.com. You can do that as well. Pete, please let people know where they can find you and what you do.
Awesome. So if you guys enjoyed hearing me join the guys on this episode, you can find me at @loud_Pete on Twitter and Instagram. And talk to me about any of the stuff we discussed today. Or if you want to check out some of my content, you can go check out my own podcast and YouTube channel. I'm youtube.com/thecomicspals, and SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever your podcasts are sold. I am a co-host on our weekly comic book podcast, The Comics Pals. I am the host of our weekly video game podcast, The Video Game Pals, which if you enjoyed this show, I think you'll probably enjoy as well. And we've got a Let's Play show on our YouTube channel. We do a Riverdale show, or all kinds of stuff. So if any of that sounds appealing to you and you're not sick of hearing me talk yet, there are plenty of places you can get more of me.
Sweet. And speaking of comic books, we're going to have a comic book book club, I guess, if you want to call it. So we're going to read a comic book and then come back and talk about it on our next episode. So I think it's perfect to have you on here. I want you to help us decide what should we read. It should be something easily accessible so that me and Nate can get a hold of it and read it.
Okay.
And so so you're a big comic book expert. Tell us what we should read for our comic book club.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this before we do that. Are you guys you're both comic readers already, right?
I dabble. I have Comixology.
Okay.
Yes.
I pay for the membership.
Do you guys have either of you just throw me out a quick favorite?
I'm currently reading Kingdom Come.
Okay.
But besides that, I just got into a few months ago Invincible.
Invincible is my all-time favorite comic book. I have and here's my Invincible statue right here. That's awesome. What about you?
I worked at a call center, outgoing, and so I had a lot of time. It's hard to pin down. I mean, I like Marvel more than most other but like I like Dark House. I like Image. It's really hard to say a company that I don't necessarily like.
All right, then I would say if
Dark Horse, by the way, I said house, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, but I knew what you meant. I would say if you guys are open to it, I think going for an Image book would be cool because I think a lot of those books are they're straight lines, which are nice. Mm-hmm. You can pick up at issue 1 and just read right through it, so it's easier for you and your listeners. Why don't you give Saga a shot if you haven't? Have you guys read that?
Okay. I have not heard that, so that might be nice.
I'm gonna see if I can find
Saga's fantastic. It's one of the best books being published right now. It's an image book. It's by Brian K. Vaughan, who really, really great comic book writer. He did Y the Last Man, Deus Ex Machina.
You just sold me. You sold me. Why the Last Man is one of my favorite.
If you like Why the Last Man, you gotta fucking read Saga, and I think especially it'll speak to you because I know you said off mic that you're a father, so it's a story all about parenthood and relationships, and I think, but it's a sci-fi thriller with like very heavy like Romeo and Juliet, Game of Thrones, Star Wars kind of vibes. It's phenomenal. So you
had me at why.
you guys should read the first volume.
All right, definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
cool.
So everybody, if you're listening, if you're into comic books like us, make sure to read Saga, and we're going to talk about at least the first volume. Like, what's the first volume come with? Like the first 100 issues or something?
Oh, the first volume's only 5 issues, so.
Oh, okay.
Easy
yeah. Okay.
read.
Well, we'll read the first. We'll read the first one, and so if you'd like to read that along with us, we'll have a good in-depth discussion about what we thought about it and what we like about it and everything next episode. So that'll be our very first comic book club, and so I'm excited for it. I've basically wanted an excuse to get back into comic book reading because it's been about 4 years since I worked at that outgoing call job, and since then I haven't read as much comic books as I want to, aka zero, but that's not the point. I've really wanted to get back into it, and so this is a perfect excuse so you guys can read alongside us. That's once again Saga. I'm assuming it's spelled S-A-G-A?
S-A-G-A, yep. Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Leslie Staples.
All right, so let's read
or
that.
Fiona Staples, sorry.
Yeah, let's read that and then come back. Make sure before the next episode, which, by the way, the next episode will be recorded on the 11th. So by the 11th, try to get the first volume read. And if you would like to give your insights into it, make sure to go tx3productions.com or threadx3productions.com. TX3 on Twitter. Let us know what you thought about it, and then we'll read some of your guys' comments in the next show. So I'm super excited about that. It sounds good. You sold me at Why the Last Man, and then you kept selling me by saying it's about fatherhood. So that's great. All right, so I'm super excited about that. Thank you, Pete, for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Sorry, what?
I said, thank you guys for having me.
Yes, definitely. We're going to put you on the list as far as like having you on again. This was so much fun. I like your insight and everything. Nate.
What's that?
You were also here.
Yes, I am also here. I think honestly, this is actually the least that I've talked on any of the podcasts we've done. And not necessarily by choice, just like as far as the conversations have flown this episode. Like,
God damn it, Pete! You're not coming on again.
Sorry. They don't call me Loud Pete for nothing.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and stay nerdy.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Oh my God, you said my favorite bye.
Bye.
Bye. Just okay, bye. I started doing that to my wife. I don't think she likes it, but just like okay, bye.